Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fun List Friday here on the Eat Sleep List YouTube channel. My name is Matt Johnson, your host, and in honor of tomorrow's Batman Day, we're going to be celebrating the Dark Knight the only way that we know how. Let's make a list. Growing up in the 1990s, superhero culture was everything. It was hard not to get wrapped up in it. Between cartoons, a revitalization of the comic book industry, plenty of toys, and honestly, a lot bigger of a focus on movies, you were kind of weird if you didn't like superheroes and comic books and all that jazz. For me, there were two characters front and center. It was Spider-Man and it was Batman. And because we're celebrating Batman Day tomorrow, September 20th, I wanted to do an episode focusing on the Dark Knight. Because he's been a big part of my life. And while there are others who have loved him way more than I have and have read more books and seen more content with him in it, it does not discredit my love and appreciation for Batman. He's easily my favorite DC character by a country mile. He's the most relatable I've found, and even though he's a billionaire, in a world where there's the Green Lanterns and the Superman and the Wonder Woman, Batman always just seems so grounded and down to earth for me. And like, how cool is it that this billionaire guy was fighting on the side of good? I love it. It's heroic. It's admirable. I mean, even as a kid, I was easily impressed with the idea of Batman. Batman was king in the 90s. Between the animated series, the Burton films, his toy lines were insane. All right, some of the different costumes. I had so many Batman toys growing up, along with his villains. But Batman was the GOAT. All right, I made a lot of cool bonds with people over Batman over the years. My dad introduced me to all these comic book characters. Him, my cousin Nico, my cousin Brandon, my Uncle Rich, and in recent years, my buddy Dan Torres. I've not met many people who are bigger fans of Batman than he is. In fact, I was really happy. A couple of years ago, he got married, and his brother Ben paid for a cameo from Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman for many, many years, and it's beautiful. And I watched all of it. I was privileged to watch all of it, and very emotional. Very emotional, but he's got tattoos of various Batman characters on him. And it's become an easy thing because I know how much he loves it, so it's become an easy gift, all right? If I find something cool that's Batman-related, boom, here you go, Dan. And I know it's well appreciated. I've bought a lot of cool... I've sent a lot of cool Batman merchandise his way between comic book compilations. In fact, a couple years ago for Christmas, I found the old Batman Forever crystal cups from McDonald's, and I was happy to gift him those because I know how much he appreciates them. So, but yeah, Batman's king of the world, and especially in the 1990s. And I'm really, really glad that I got to live through and experience that. There's no lessons from the list for this week, but I wanted to do another thing that I haven't done in a couple months now, but it's Matt's Stats. Something that I love to bring up when there is no lesson to be told. But I'm going to look at some cool Batman statistics that maybe not everybody knows, and maybe learn a thing or two. All right, maybe learn a thing or two. So, Batman debuted in 1939. Detective Comics number 27 is the specific issue. So he's been around for a little while. So I think he's 86 years old. I think that's what that makes him publication-wise. This was outstanding to really think about. But if you think about it, 86 years and how many potential comic books he's been in, what are you thinking? I'm going to give you a second. How many rough estimate comics do you think that Batman has appeared in? According to several resources that I looked up, he has appeared in over 17,000 unique comics. And that is, obviously, there's all sorts of different runs of Batman books, but there's also various team-up things, Justice League, and Lord knows what else, but 17,000 unique comic books that Batman has appeared in. Live action. Bruce Wayne / Batman has been portrayed by over 13 people. All right, and obviously there's a couple young Bruce Wayne. That's all part of it. Like that's portrayals. That's all part of that. And then there's obviously the more famous ones like Adam West, like Clooney, like Kilmer, like Keaton, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, and Robert Pattinson most recently. So many more. He's been voiced by over 25 different people over the years. And I think the first cartoon of Batman was like in the 60s or 70s. But obviously Kevin Conroy is the most famous one. He was pretty much dominated like the animated series in the early 90s and then onward until his death. He was doing all the Arkham games and so much more. He has a lot of villains, and we're going to be focusing on the villains today. I'll explain why in just a moment, but the list is going to be villain-oriented. He has 25 core reoccurring villains. There's about over 100 expanded comic villains, so different criminals. This is something I've always liked about Batman, is that he's dealt with a lot of street-level characters as well as some pretty big-time, serious global threats. But all in all, he's had interactions with about 200-plus villains over his years. We all love the gadgets, right? We all love the gadgets. The most famous one, the shark repellent. All right, that's a classic one. It is canon, if I'm not mistaken. Batman has used between 60 and 70 different gadgets over his in his utility belt, amongst other things. So that's a pretty cool stat right there. The most expensive Batman comic book ever sold was Batman #1. So not his first appearance in Detective Comics number 27, but Batman #1 in 1940. It sold for $2.2 million in January of 2021, and it was a 9.4 grade. So that's outstanding to see. Let's see what else we got here. A couple more fun ones. He's appeared in over 60 cartoon projects, so that's not just cartoon shows, but cartoon movies. And then there's been 16 films, live action, that have portrayed, that utilized Batman in some way, shape, or form. He has over 70-plus video game appearances between Batman solo games, Justice League games, and so much more. There are about 2,000 to 2,500 different Batman toys, and some of the sources mapped it out. This is between vehicles, play sets, and this is basically anything that was played with that has a Batman logo attached to it. And the last little bit, all the live-action Batman films have made a combined $6.8 billion, which I think Dark Knight Rises is the highest grossing, I think, as far as that's what I was looking up. But yeah, there's some quick math stats. There's plenty of stuff out there. But there's some fun stuff about The Dark Knight. All right, everybody, it is time for my top 10 list. As I always encourage, please feel free to comment along and voice whatever you're thinking. There's a lot of great Batman villains out there, and that is what we are making the top 10 list about today. And everybody has their picks. Everybody has their differences, and that's what makes the discourse about this sort of thing so great, is that there's different characters for different people. The reason I'm focusing on the Batman villains on a day where we're celebrating Batman is because I am personally a big believer that the villain makes the hero. There's a lot of cool heroes out there, but their villains are not so recognizable, kind of weak, and don't stand out. They're not iconic. And therefore, when the main character, when our heroes defeat them, it doesn't really mean as much. When they combat them, it doesn't mean as much. There are a couple of examples with this. I tend to go to pro wrestling. All right. I feel that a strong villain will make a strong good guy, or in wrestling terms, a strong heel making a strong baby face. All right. I look at John Cena's first WWE championship win. And he was uber popular as it is. But he went up against a guy who was a strong heel champion, who had been champion for 9 months, one of the longest reigns in recent championship history, and it made that win so much more worth it. All right, defeated him at WrestleMania 21. On the flip side, Dave Bautista went up against one of the biggest villains in pro wrestling history in Triple H. All right, those title wins meant more. There's a lot of other title wins against forgettable opponents, forgettable villains, and forgettable matches and forgettable feuds, but how strong the villain looked and how high the obstacle was for the hero to overcome made the hero shine in the end. And that's what I want to focus on. These are 10 characters that I've just had a fascination with. I don't necessarily know why. I don't have great reasons. And again, I'm not as diehard as some other people, but it does not discredit my love for this franchise. But here are my top 10 favorite Batman villains. Let's get to it. My number 10, I'm going to go with the ventriloquist, a.k.a. with Scarface, but his real name is Arnold Wesker. Debuted in Detective Comics number 583 in February of 1988. You don't hear too much, I don't think, about the 80s when it comes to Batman. It's like a low, not like a low point, but it's not his most popular era. I don't think. But the ventriloquist is one of the villains that came out of there very, very popular and made appearances. I know him through the animated series, and I always thought it was cool that this character, Arnold Wesker, the ventriloquist, had like a multiple personality disorder, and sometimes he let the Scarface puppet control him, and other times he wouldn't, and there was this never-ending kind of battle. It almost... I'm trying to think of a comparison. I mean, you can kind of look at like the Eddie Brock Venom kind of teeter-tottering, or Hulk Bruce Banner kind of thing, but just in the very opposite direction. Batman faced a lot of mob-type villains, and I always really found this one quite interesting because I didn't always understand it, and it kept me on edge. So Scarface / the ventriloquist, Arnold Wesker, that's my number 10. I've always adored this villain for some reason. Number 9, I'm going to go Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane. It took me a while to really find Scarecrow intimidating. I watched the animated series, and there was an episode that dealt with the Scarecrow, and it wasn't a good look, that's for sure. It wasn't very intimidating or villain-like. He looked like a Raggedy Ann doll. I don't know, like he just He was just a dude in a scarecrow costume. Like, it was just, that was it. He was just a gimmick. But coming around, I remember my grandmother, my Mima, she had a scarecrow toy from some different comic book line, and it was pretty intimidating the way it looked. And it had a scythe. It had all sorts of stuff. I'm like, ooh, this is different. I kind of like this. And then I loved, I think it was Cillian Murphy's portrayal in Batman Begins. Obviously, it really went into that horror aspect of him with the nerve gas and all that jazz. Like, it added a whole other element to how I perceived Scarecrow. He debuted in World's Finest Comics #3 in the fall of 1941, by the way. I have every villain's debut book listed. But yeah, I had a Scarecrow action figure. It scared me. And I think the Batman Begins portrayal. And again, the Batman Begins portrayal was different, unique, and I think it gave a lot more depth to the character. At least as somebody who's not like a diehard comic book reader, especially of Batman stuff. So that's my number 9 is Scarecrow. Number 8, I'm going to go Bane. Bane was wild. I remember Bane lightly through the cartoon, but mostly is that roided out thing from Batman. Was it Batman and Robin? Yeah, it was the last one from Batman and Robin. Like, I just remember just how scary he looked. And I always thought it was cool. He had the luchador mask thing going on. But I do remember it being a big deal. I didn't read the book, but I remember seeing the cover when I was a kid of Batman getting his back broken by Bane. All right. Bane made his debut in Batman Vengeance of Bane #1, which came out in 1993. But it was a big deal for Batman to get rocked by this character. And I do enjoy Tom Hardy's portrayal of him. I don't know if that's been, I would imagine that's been replicated in some comics maybe. It's actually still hard to believe that Tom Hardy pulled that look off. But I've always enjoyed the comic book version more as just this brute instead of an intellect brute. Maybe I'm missing something along the way, but Bane is belonging of my top 8, and both movie variations have played a big part in this. So my number 7, sometimes hero, sometimes villain. I'm going to go Catwoman, Selena Kyle. Yeah, I mean, Cat Burglar. Again, I've always been more Marvel, so like Black Cat has always kind of been like that character for me, that sometimes hero, sometimes villain character in love with our hero. But I know that Catwoman's the OG, and she's been played by some beautiful actresses over the years in some of the movie stuff. And I've never seen the Halle Berry Catwoman. I should just say that, but I like it. I like the Catwoman character. I mean, especially in that time, a strong female character as a kind of a villain is really cool, and I like that she became a love interest of Batman. It created a nice dynamic, and I think it was really trendsetter when it comes to that kind of villain falling in love with the hero when it comes to the world of comic books. So Catwoman, number 7. Number 6. Oh, forgive me. Catwoman debuted in the first Batman, #1, April of 1940, by the way, which is that comic that went for a lot of money. So there's another character that made their debut in that too. We'll talk about him in a moment. But all right, my number 6, the Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot, debuting in Detective Comics #58 from December of 1941. I love Danny DeVito's Penguin, but oh God, Colin Farrell. His portrayal has been fantastic so far. It's been nice. It's been grounded. I love the mobster villains. All right, I like the street level villains. I think they add an excitement to and a different level of chaos to a rogues gallery. But the Penguin always stood out because he was just a little bit more than that. And he had the umbrella with the machine gun, which I always thought was cool. He utilized penguins in various ways. It had a cool look. But yeah, Penguin's a classic. I'm a classic guy. Like, I'm a traditionalist when it comes to a lot of the stuff. So a lot of the villains I have, most of the villains that I have are not too far out of the box. Like, there's a lot of great new ones, but I'm a traditionalist when it comes to these sort of things. So, and the Penguin makes it at number 6. Number 5, Two-Face / Harvey Dent debuted in Detective Comics number 66 in August of 1942. Man, Tommy Lee Jones portrayal, a little over the top, but iconic nonetheless. And then I forget the actor's name, but in The Dark Knight, even though it was brief, terrifying. And that's how you do it. Less is more. And his 30 to 45-minute run as actual Two-Face was so meaningful. All right, and obviously it paved the way for a lot of stuff in the third movie as well. But I had the action figure as a kid. I remember I had a pair of pajamas. It was red, and Two-Face was driving a car. And I remember all of a sudden, and Batman was on top of the car. And I remember I was like 4 or 5 years old in my living room, my parents' living room. My Aunt Joanne was over. My mom was talking to her. And I remember Two-Face. Like, I was so excited. I never realized that Two-Face was on the pajamas. And my mom thought I was saying toothpaste. But it's like this weird, like, just random memory that I have of being a kid. And yeah, Two-Face is awesome. I liked how he looked one way. Like, I always try to see it. Like, I cover up one half, look at it that way, and then, I don't know. It's art, I guess. That's how I view art. But that's my number 5 is Two-Face. Number 4, Poison Ivy, a.k.a. Pamela Isley. Batman number 181 from June of 1966. Very, very attractive comic book character. Beautiful. Love the Uma Thurman portrayal. I was mesmerized as a kid. I think I became a man watching that film. But... or something of the sorts. But it's kind of like I like the eco-terrorist kind of angle. Like, it's like you're kind of a villain, but not really at the same time. Like, you intend good. I like it. I think it's a cool ability, cool powers to manipulate plants and the earth, kind of like that. Really cool. Really cool. I'm all the way here for it. So number 4, Poison Ivy. Number 3 is the Joker. And you may think that's a little low, but I don't know. The Joker's like too mainstream for me. I feel like there's been too much Joker sometimes. Like, every generation of Batman feels the need to have a new Joker. And it's kind of like the X-Men films, where every film Magneto had to be involved somehow. It's like, all right, give Magneto a little break here. He doesn't need to be the villain in everything. Let me enjoy some other stuff. And but he's been played by some great role. I mean, just a strong Joker casting is been just as important as a strong Batman casting. And Joker's been played by a lot of great people. He also debuted in Batman number 1, 1940. I had a couple different Joker action figures. I know I had one of the animated series back in the 90s. He's easily one of the most iconic video game characters of all time. It can get really dark, can get really goofy. A lot of range with the Joker. And I think that's why he's so beloved as a character. So, number 3, the Joker. Number 2, Mr. Freeze, debuting in Batman number 121 from February of 1959. I'm a big ice water element kind of character. Like that's what I like. Like if I had superpowers of some sort, that's what I would like to control. And I like the color blue, so it just kind of goes hand in hand, I guess. He's also kind of like one of those sympathetic villains, where he's a villain for all of the right reasons. Like he wants to save his wife, Nora, I believe her name was. But I've watched a couple things where it's like, man, you just kind of want to see him be the good guy. His look has always been so cool to me. I think that's one of the best parts, is that his look has always been so cool to me. You got the red eyes and the blue suit and just, again, the ability to you got all these freeze guns. I know the movie was terrible, but I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger's look as Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin. I think the look was awesome. Very forward-thinking. Him in that suit of armor, all that what he had going on, all of that. It would have been cooler if it was in a better movie, but we take what we can get here. And but Mr. Freeze is my number 2. My number 1 is the Riddler, Edward Nygma, debuting in Detective Comics number 140 in October of 1948. I've spoken why the Riddler is my favorite character. It is one of the best gifts that the best toy gifts that my dad ever gave me when I was a child. And I will never forget that memory, that moment. I've repeated it a lot over the last couple weeks, so I don't want to do it again. But yeah, man. I like a villain that can make you think. An intelligent villain. You don't really think of the Riddler as like for his fighting prowess, even though there are times where he has been portrayed in that light. But I like a villain that makes you think. Because even like when you're watching or reading along, you're trying to figure it out yourself too. Like with all his riddles, you're trying to figure it out and learn and maybe get the jump on it before Batman does. Or it was always really cool. I loved Jim Carrey's portrayal of the Riddler. I did not like the new Batman portrayal of the Riddler. Maybe I like the portrayal. I hated the dude's face who did it. I don't know. Again, traditionalist, sucker for tradition. I'm trying to think. There were some other things I wanted to add to this. But I always thought Jim Carrey could do a really good dark version of Riddler. Not that he ever would at this point. But I would have loved to see him reprise that role, but with a much darker twist to it. And you know what? My cousin did was the Riddler for Halloween like 10 years ago, and he looked perfect. And I think that might be part of it. It might be a little bit. There's just so much Riddler stuff going on. I adore it. I love it. I love the color green associated with them. There's so much that goes into it. Who knows why we love these characters, right? There's just all sorts of little quirks and whatnot. But yeah, the Riddler is my number 1, and that is this list, the Batman Rogues Gallery list. The Batman Rogues Gallery list. But that is it, everybody. We are done for the weekend. Enjoy it. I love and appreciate you all. Enjoy Batman Day. Celebrate it. And we'll be back on Monday. Till next time, do you even list?